consent agenda. Roll call.
Freeholders, Ochner, Bartlett, Best, Duffy, Lepore, Director, Deputy Director James, Director Lazare.
Here.
First on the, thank you, Director. First on the agenda this evening, we are always honored. I'm very lucky the last few years to have people recognized. I'm going to ask Lucinda Corrado, who's the Executive Director of Preakness Healthcare Center, to come up maybe at the podium, Lucinda. This year, Suzanne McAvoy, Assistant Director of Therapeutic Recreation at Preakness Healthcare Center, was selected as an award recipient of the Excellence in Care Award by Leading Edge New Jersey at their 2017 awards program. So Lucinda, why don't you tell us a little bit about the award itself and a little bit about Suzanne. Suzanne, why don't you come forward as well?
Leading Age New Jersey Leading Age New Jersey is a senior services nonprofit association for nursing homes, assisted living, housing, and each year they recognize staff in different categories. And this is the fourth year that we have staff in the category for excellence in care, which recognizes staff who actually interact with the residents. Suzanne's entry that was made by Anthony Sangster, one of our previous award recipients, he spoke of what she does in her job. Suzanne is the Assistant Director of Therapeutic Recreation, and she is certainly more than just activities. Suzanne is recognized for the passion that she brings to what she does, because many people can do activities, but not the way that Suzanne does it. So she either is personally responsible for providing the activity or she oversees them. Some of the information is included in the proclamation that will be read, and it may sound like no big deal, that she is arranging a Christmas dinner, or that she's arranging a non-committal wedding, or a baptism that she did for a resident, or today we had Mardi Gras. But when you're a resident in a nursing home and you have medical issues, it certainly helps to take your mind off of the issues that you have and be able to live your lives as we do when we're out in the community. So we're very proud and we're very appreciative that Suzanne is on our staff.
The director is going to present you with the proclamation, and then if you'd like to say a few words, we would be honored.
She's very shy.
Shy is one of them not.
It's humble.
Yes.
I've seen Suzanne at work. She does a really great job, let me tell you. And the trick or treat you guys have every year, what month is that?
October.
October is just such a great event and such a great fundraiser, and all the proceeds go to the people who live over at Preakness Healthcare Center. But on behalf of the entire board, we want to present you with this proclamation, which I am going to read. Whereas the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Passaic wishes to recognize Suzanne McAvoy, CTRS, Assistant Director of Therapeutic Recreation at Preakness Healthcare Center, who has been selected as an award recipient of the Excellence in Care Award by Leading Age New Jersey in its 2017 awards program. And whereas Suzanne McAvoy, is it McAvoy? McAvoy has been employed at Preakness Healthcare since 2004, whereas Suzanne McAvoy has taken great pride and exhibited exceptional passion in providing the residents of Preakness Healthcare with a quality of care which has improved their quality of life. Whereas during her 14 years on the therapeutic recreation staff, Suzanne McAvoy has coordinated the Memorial Day Parade for over 10 years, complete with marching bands, the Passaic County Sheriff's Department, their horses, and the dogs come too, I believe, motorcycles, veterans groups, and bagpipers. And I know there's always such a great attendance. I know the residents love it. Whereas Suzanne McAvoy has worked with residents to bring educational and social events to Preakness Healthcare Center, and whereas Suzanne McAvoy has produced the Preakness Press newsletter with information that is provided to residents and families, and whereas Suzanne McAvoy has displayed her unselfishness by enthusiastically leading the staff and personally participating in many activities for the residents. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Passaic hereby congratulates Suzanne McAvoy for her dedication to the residents of Preckness Healthcare Center and for her recognition by Leading Age New Jersey as an award recipient of their Excellence in Care Award. You do fabulous work. Thank you so much.
Oh, boy. Very humbled. I love what I do, and I thank all of you and Mrs. Corrado for allowing me to do the work that I love to do. Like I said, I've been employed with Preakness Healthcare Center for the last 14 years. I've been a CTRS for 20 now, and to be able to do the work that I love means everything. To be recognized for it is a little difficult because I'm not in it for the recognition. I'm in it for the residents. So, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, come on, Willie, thank you.
Little photo. Any of Suzanne's workers, co-workers, or family? Suzanne, you have family or co-workers that want to, let them come up and picture.
Can we take a picture?
One, two. You think 10 pictures is enough? You gotta get it.
Sean,
One more.
one more quick. Thank you so
Director, with your permission, I'd like to just go out of order. We'll do the budget introduction last. If we can do the open space public hearing regarding the possible reallocation of Passaic County Open Space and Farmland Preservation Trust Fund expenditures. Mr. Clerk, if you would read the notice.
The hearing is pursuant, tonight's public open space hearing is pursuant to NJSA 40:12-15, period 3, regarding a possible reallocation of Passaic County's open space and farmland preservation trust fund expenditures authorized by the Passaic County Board of Chosen Freeholders. The following public hearing was advertised in both the Record and the Herald News on January 4th, 2018, specifying the time, date, and location of this public hearing. Roll call. Freeholders, Apter. Here. Bartlett. Here. Best. Here. Duffy. Here. Lepore. Here. Deputy Director James. Here. Director Lazare.
Here.
Number 3.
Oh, open space.
I'll move to open the public hearing.
All right. There it is.
Oh, jeez, okay. Motion to open the public hearing regarding a possible reallocation of Passaic County's open space and farmland preservation trust fund expenditure.
So moved.
Bartlett and Ogden.
Freeholders, Apter.
Yes.
Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Here.
Lepore. Deputy Director James.
Yes.
Director Lazare.
Yes. Does anyone present desire to be heard on the proposed reallocation?
Seeing no one, I voted, I move to close the public hearing. Second.
Duffy and Hoffman.
Freeholders, Actor.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore.
Yes.
Deputy Director James.
Yes.
Director Lazare.
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Motion to adjourn.
What? I'm sorry.
Adjourn this.
We don't. We want to do that. We don't
All
have
right,
to adjourn.
never mind.
No, we're adjourning the public hearing on that open space.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, move it. Bartlett and Actor are moving the adjournment.
Bartlett and Actor. Freeholders, Actor.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James.
Yes.
Director Lazare.
Yes. Now? No more introduction of proposed 2018 city county budget.
Yes, Director, just give us a second. We'll get this queued up. Anybody from the public?
Congratulations.
Presentation. Very nice. Oh, it is beautiful.
You want that one?
Freeholders, here we are again for another budget introduction. I have with me, I don't think anyone needs introduction, but I'll do it anyway. Rich Cahill, our CFO. To my right is Matt Jordan, Deputy County Administrator, and of course our Auditor, Stephen Wilcox. We'll start with the development of the budget and how the process works and when it begins. Slide 4 for those who are playing at home. So back in July, Rich Cahill sent out a letter to all department heads that they should begin to prepare their 2018 budget request. Those requests were due by September 15th. I'm very happy to report, I think it's the first time we actually received every single department's request by the submission date, which was great. It made our life a little bit easier. On September 19th, we began to meet with all of the departments. So typically we sit down, we have budget meetings with each of the departments, we go over their requests, we make adjustments to that request, and then those, the administrator's recommendation winds up going to the budget committee. We completed our meetings by October 31st of this year. At the end of January this year, the finance department completed our annual financial statement, and here we are today with the introduction, with a public hearing scheduled for 1 month from today on March 13, 2018. We will submit the introduced budget tomorrow to the state for their review and any comments that they may have. So what is the county budget? What are the goals of the county budget that this freeholder board has developed and adopted? Obviously, that we remain financially and operationally efficient, maintains all of our public safety initiatives, sustains all human, senior, and veteran services program, ensures the maintenance of critical countywide infrastructure, ensures the maintenance of our county parks and recreational areas, protects the county's bond rating. Talk about it a little bit later on, but as you know, we received an upgrade this in 2017 from Moody's. Preserves the prudent and methodological use of fund balance, methodical use of fund balance. Again, very key, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. And then obviously plans for the future. So one of the things that this board has allowed us to do as the administration is to create budgets that are not just for 1 year, but that allow us to plan for the future. And I think as you see going through this presentation, we are really at that stage in Passaic County of planning for the future and really preparing ourselves for worst-case scenarios if they should come along. Something that, in my tenure here, we really have never been in this position. So it's a great tribute to this board for allowing us to be able to get to that point. So, as everyone up there I think knows, I always talk about to understand where we are today, we have to understand where we were. So this slide shows back in 1998 that the county was downgraded to an A3 by Moody's, mostly because of it was actually downgraded from A1 to A3, which is a large downgrade, typically not two downgrades, because of the concerns of the high debt burden, its trust funding crisis, and its long-term financial health. At that time, 20 years ago now, not all that long, but 20 years ago now, no other county government had a bond rating lower than A3. So important to remember that, often people say, well, that was 20 years ago, it took you this long to get to that point. Well, government is typically like a cruise ship, right? It doesn't turn on a dime, it turns slowly. The key is, like the Titanic, not hit the iceberg. And that's really what we're seeing. So at present, today, January 17th, we had a AA rating from Standard & Poor's and a AA2 rating from Moody's, which is the highest quality investment, considered high quality investment grade. And as you know, going through all the refunding bonds in the last couple of years, we're not only seeing great interest rates, but we're seeing competitiveness, people wanting to buy Passaic County bonds. So it's something that you all should be very, very proud of here in Passaic County. Some of the rationales for the AA bond rating: strong economy, strong management with good fiscal policies. A few years back, we set policies in Passaic County not to use more surplus in the budget than we believe we could regenerate in the following year, which is critical, as well as limit the amount of debt that we issue in any one year to not exceed $10 million. Strong budgetary performance. So what does that mean? That obviously, as we put these budgets together and you vote on them, that they are doing what they're supposed to do, that we're meeting our spending needs, that our revenues are strong and getting stronger. And strong budgetary flexibility. And some of that flexibility we'll talk about a little bit further when we talk about reserves and we talk about trust fund reserves. County's also been proactive in increasing its reserves. Overall net is low at 1% of market value, and the stable outlook is supported by our review of the county's strong management and adherence to practices and policies. One of the things that when they issue a report, they'll tell you reasons why you could get an upgrade, and then they'll always throw in reasons why you could see a downgrade. And at the bottom, in bold, you'll see one of the reasons that they identified as that we could see a downgrade is if we begin to draw substantially on the reserves that we're going to talk about a little bit further in the presentation. Sometimes you want to do that for the wrong reasons, but it's important that we remember that those reserves are there for those unforeseen circumstances. And I don't think I need to remind people, I think it was 3 and 4 years ago, where we had bad years with health benefits. We're self-insured. We obviously don't know what the health of our employees are going to be, or our retirees are going to be. We had bad health years, we had to go out and do emergency appropriations, which again caused the tax levy to increase in that year. Now we're to the point, again, we'll see it a little later on, where we're planning for that. So what does the budget mean going forward in the future? Sound fiscal management allows for the Board of Freeholders to direct resources towards improving Passaic County's infrastructure, parks, recreation, economic development, and provide ongoing stability. And that's key. The ongoing stability is key, so that the tax levy kind of just hovers. Last year, as you recall, we had no tax levy increase. This year, we're going to see a slight increase, but we're not going to see those spikes, which in any budgeting is really where you want to be. You want to be able to control that unforeseen stuff. And again, we're going to go through each one of these later in this slide, but building the reserves for health benefits, workers' comp, investing in our parks, protecting and preserving our historic assets, developing the Riverfront Park at Passaic, which is going to be an amazing project. I mean, to build that green space in an urban center is really very exciting, I think, for everybody. And investing in our children, in our education. So both Passaic County Tech, new STEM facility, and our Passaic County Community College. So we'll first start with the reserves fund balance. That is that surplus number that we talked about. And as you'll see, from 2012 to 2017, we've seen dramatic increases in that. $5 million alone this year. That $50 million is one of those cushions that allow us to keep things level and flat. Often people will say, well, why aren't you using that? It's one of the key areas that the rating agencies look at. And honestly, if we were in this position back in 2007, when we had layoffs, we would have been able to have a different outcome. So, as I often like to say, we went into the worst economic time in very bad position. Had we, God forbid, hopefully it never happens again. But if that should occur again and the economy goes south, Passaic County is in a much better position to deal with the ill effects of a bad economy. And then on top of our surplus, we have trust fund balances, trust fund reserves. And you'll see here what I've done is the end of 2017 versus 2016, and then going back to 2013. So you'll see where we've been able to increase some of those reserves. So in workers' compensation, for instance, this year we have $5.4 million sitting in reserve. So we budget every year in our budget a line item for workers' compensation, but you could have bad years. These trust reserves help us offset if we miss the mark in the budget, that we have something to draw on. Health benefits, again, we saw, I think it was $7 million in total emergency appropriations for the 2 years. 4? 7. Yeah. So it was a large number. Having $13 million in health benefit reserves, especially being self-insured, especially, we have no control over the health of our employees, is a tremendous asset. And I have to tell you, back in November, I guess, when we went to see the rating agencies, I think this slide really was the slide that they stood up and took notice. That we're doing all of the right things, that we're trying to build a budget and build a base here that is solid and financially sound. And same thing with liability trust. And I'll remind the board, because probably many of you weren't here, but for many years, this board would bond for health benefits and liability trust. So we go out, we float a $25 million bond, and then each year we would draw down on that. Between the reserves and the fact that we're in a position to budget in our operating budget, the amount that we believe historically is the right number, we will no longer have to rely on that bond. Which, again, when you look at the totality of the budget, these are the little things that sometimes go unnoticed, but are really important in the stability of the future of the county. We've also created some new reserves, snow removal, so if you have that bad year, again, we could draw on it. You recall a few years ago, it seemed like we had a storm every other day. We were fighting with salt for the roads. We were spending a lot of money. We never had those type of reserves. Now you can draw on it again if the budget, if the snow is more than you account for in the budget. Accumulated absences, it's always one of the things that the rating agencies look at. We're making progress. We need to make a little bit more progress there, but we're going to make that our 2018 priority. Unemployment compensation, again, it's there, when you need it and if you need it. And we still have that old county pension system. So at this point, I don't even know how many people are still alive in it, but it's about a $1.8 million, $1.7 million line item in our budget. But again, we're creating reserves. Clearly, each year we're paying less as people move on. But so with that money left in the budget, we're moving it into a reserve fund so that at some point in time that'll be built up. and less reliance. We still have one active employee working, one contributor, and at last, the last actuarial report, I think there was 5 people that were between 95 and 104 collecting a pension. It's, whatever it is, that pension has longevity. So some of the improvements that we're making in our park system, this year we will have something going on in each one of our parks. So we're going to begin the Dye Mansion Garden Restoration Project, which will really be the last piece of the puzzle of the Dye Mansion. We did the Dye Mansion, we did the Visitor Center. Now we're going to restore the gardens back to its historic glory. We have the Highlands Rail Trail, which is under design. Garrett Mountain Reservation Phase 1 improvements, which are actually underway right now. The bathrooms are being worked on as we speak. Gulfbrook Park Athletic Field improvement. This past year we completed the turf field, the multi-purpose field. This year we'll be looking at the ball fields. There's 3 baseball fields there in entire need. And this year we have under design right now. I'll be 80% complete. And we'll be redoing those ball fields as well. Preakness Valley Golf Course improvements. I mean, that has been an ongoing success story in Preakness. And we continue to make improvements where we can. A lot of the bigger improvements are done. A lot of those improvements in-house, so whether it's bunkers, things of that nature. I have to say, hiring a golf pro was the best thing this board ever did, because he sees things that the average person doesn't see in terms of, you know, a good, for instance, is putting in a bunker where, you know, somebody might hit the ball out of bounds, and public golf courses, people will look for a ball for 15 minutes because they don't want to lose the ball. You know, you put a strategic bunker in place, it speeds up play. And obviously, the faster the play, the more people come to play and the more money that we make. So it's little things like that that have been a great asset to that golf course. Rifle Camp Park Phase 1 improvements are under design as we speak, and Weaselbrook Phase 2 improvements are under design as we speak. This is just a little rendering of the Passaic Park recreational opportunity at Dundee Island. And as you can see, it's going to be a tremendous project in the city of Passaic for the county of Passaic to utilize. It's a beautiful area along the river, and it's really just spectacular. So it's something very, very exciting. And then investing in our rich history. So we talk about it, it's our slogan, but it is a reality. We are presently working on the courthouse annex. We will repurpose that. Right now, we rent space at 100 Hamilton Plaza for family probation. We'll be able to terminate that lease and reprogram the annex for the state's use, thereby saving the rent that we pay there. The John Gray House in Hawthorne at Gulfbrook Park is under design as we speak and will be rehabilitated for reuse as an art center and community meeting office space. We've been meeting with the Hawthorne Historical Society, and there should be some synergy there where we can work together with Hawthorne and create a great space for that. And I toured it today, the Vanderhoof House in Clifton at Weaselbrook Park is under construction as we speak. So it's all of the asbestos remediation has been completed, and now they're starting on the demolition of the interior. So that's another exciting project that's going on this year. And we talk about our investment in our schools. The STEM Academy should be complete, should be accepting children for this September. And it's something that I think it is really going to be a highlight of all tech schools throughout the state. I know you're all very proud of our tech school, and I think this is just another feather in the cap. Really training kids for the 21st century. So. And again, the private sector approach of managing the golf course has been a tremendous turn. I love the old pictures, that's why I put them in there. But this year we saw revenues increase by 35% in the golf course. So we created the new golf shop. We're selling apparel. I know many of you have said it to me that people call and we're getting nothing but compliments. vendor who's running the concession stand and food and beverage is doing a great job. So we're really bringing in more tournaments than we ever had. People coming back to the Passaic County Golf Course and Field. So it's a very exciting time. Certainly in our parks and everywhere else. So I always like to just show that picture because people always say, well, county, what do you know, where's my dollars go? 23 cents on every dollar that property taxpayers goes towards operating county government. You'll see a little bit further along some of the things that this budget supports. 43% go towards our education and 34% goes towards municipalities. So what does the county budget support? What do we spend money on? So we maintain, repair, and repave 533 lane miles of county roads and 350 bridges and culverts. We invest in maintenance and upgrade of our Passaic County park system, funding over 4,000 acres planned. As I said earlier, increasing the funding of workers' compensation liability that should eliminate the need for future bonding, protecting our employees' futures by fully funding our county pension obligations. Again, I always think it's important to remind the public that when they talk about the pension systems not being fully funded, county governments and municipal governments, we fully fund that pension system. We pay what the state tells us we have to pay. The state, on the other hand, they decide what they want to pay. But municipal and county governments are required to pay. We get a bill every year, and then you'll see it in the budget.
That's a separate fund from state.
They are segregated funds. One of the concerning things really was that the prior governor had put together a committee to look at the pensions. And one of the recommendations, thankfully it has not been implemented, I hope it never does, was to meld the two.
So they can both consolidate.
Exactly. And I think that would be a disaster. Because again, I think at the end of the day, the taxpayers are going to suffer. Doing our part to implement bail reform, that's obviously has been on everyone's mind. And we have increased some personnel to the sheriff's office, the prosecutor's office, and the judiciary. One of the benefits of that, spending a little bit of money up front, but we have seen the census at the jail go down from about 1,200. We were at a low just about a week and a half ago, 640 in the jail. It fluctuates, it's probably about 680 today, but in my 14 years here, I've never seen numbers like that. So, those savings will begin to pay dividends moving forward. And now that speedy trial is kind of at the forefront as well, we should see prisoners either getting out of jail because they've been found innocent or going to a state prison where we're not subsidizing people who've been in the jail waiting for years to be tried. Funding and repair and rehabilitation of Passaic County Courthouse Annex, we spoke about, providing a social safety net for the most vulnerable among us, our seniors, our veterans, our disabled, and Preakness Healthcare Center is probably one of the biggest safety nets that I think this board provides. And I know that that's something that we're all very proud of. And investing in our children's future. So, to get to this point, some of the steps that we have taken, we've worked in partnership with unions to negotiate collective bargaining agreements that have cut costs and protect the taxpayers. We've changed our out-of-network reimbursement for the traditional health plan. It was a plan that was designed back in 1984. There was no incentive for employees to stay in network. So we have made plan changes through the negotiating table to limit those out of network. And again, we're beginning to reap the benefits of that as well. We have also eliminated new hires going into that traditional plan. We offer 5 plans altogether. New employees have a choice of 4 different plans, but no longer can somebody go into that traditional health benefit plan, which of course is the most costly. So we do multiple outreach to employees so that we can answer their questions, alleviate any concerns they could have. If they leave this, is my doctor in that network? And it works. So we not only do them here in this building, we go out to the jail, we go out to Preakness Healthcare Center, we do second shift, third shift seminars, and it's beginning to pay. As I said before, this board a few years back adopted it, and we've been adhering to the policy of not bonding more than $10 million in any given year, as well as not using more surplus than we believe we're going to regenerate the following year. We've had a 22.5% reduction in the workforce since 2006. We conservatively anticipate revenues. As you know, the county can anticipate in this year's budget what it collected last year, but we never want to max that out because you never know. So many of those revenues are generated by things that are out of our control. You know, the one thing that always comes to mind is the real estate transfer fees. Real estate transfer fees, which you as a board have no control over. So we never want to max out those revenues, because if you begin to fall short on those revenues, it's a double hit, because you're going to wind up with less surplus the following. And we executed one of the largest shared services agreements in the state of New Jersey back in 2009. We closed our youth detention center and consolidated it with Essex County. And that has been, honestly, I couldn't plan it any better. It's gone as well as it could go. So we talk about employees. Back in 2006, we had close to 2,400 employees, and in 2017, we ended the year with 1,853. And you'll see since 2012, we have the numbers. And it depends on what time of year I actually ask human resources to give me the number. So depending on whether we have seasonals that are still on or part-time. But you can see that's about the number that we will be at. Talked about the shared service with Essex County. We've done a few other shared services with the Borough of Hawthorne. We buy brine through them rather than building our own brine station, purchasing it through them. Along with purchasing it through Hawthorne also brines the county roads. So while they're out on the municipal roads, they're brining our county roads, and then we pay them the cost per mile. And it's worked out fantastic. Through our dark fiber network, we have reached out to many municipalities, and we hope to get more on soon. But we have Woodland Park, the City of Passaic, and the Wanacue School District that are using our dark fiber. So not only are we generating some money, but it's saving those towns and that school district money as well. We have a long-standing, I hesitate because it's gotten some bad press lately, but the state medical examiner, along with Hudson, Somerset, and Essex County. So we use the Northern Region Medical Examiner, which is located in Newark, as opposed to many years ago, all counties had their own medical examiner in Newark, which here in Passaic County was housed up at the Youth Detention Center. We also started a shared service with Bergen County to do our consumer affairs investigations. That has worked really well. Speaking to the executive in Bergen County last week, and they're thrilled with it, and so are we. It's worked out well. The number of cases have gone up, and again, we're generating some revenue from that as well. We have cooperative purchasing programs available to all 16 municipalities. We purchase gas and electric through a cooperative. So we have obviously our county, Passaic County, some of our municipalities have joined in on that, along with Hudson County and Sussex County. And vehicle fuel, so Pumpkin Lakes uses our Pumpkin Lakes fueling station, Prospect Park, and the Pumpkin Lakes MUA for education, also purchase fuel for the county. We charge them the cost of the fuel, and then there's administrative costs. Not a big revenue generator, but a way that we can help municipalities rather than them have to outlay for capital expenses of putting in tanks. Just a quick little on the Youth Detention Center. This is a snapshot of this year. If we did not consolidate, keeping flat, we would have budgeted $14 million in this year's budget. With the consolidation, we budgeted a little bit less than $4 million, which represents a $10 million savings in this year's budget. Those really are conservative numbers because that really is just budget to budget. That doesn't take into consideration the building, the repairs of the building, the electric to the building, doesn't take into liability, doesn't take into workers' compensation, all of those things. So that's really just salary and everyday operating expenses versus what we're paying as a county. And as as I said, we have had absolutely no issues in terms of the Passaic County kids and Essex County kids. It's really been fantastic. So the meat and the potato of the budgets, I also had given Freehold a little bit more detail on my spreadsheets here if you want to see what makes up some of these numbers. But you'll see that revenues, the local revenues, which again are the county clerk, the register of deeds, the sheriff, interest on investments, those are up about 32%. So again, we're increasing them, we're not maxing them out. We believe based on the historic data that we look at, that these are comfortable numbers. And it's the first time in a few years that we've increased revenues, Steve, right? We've pretty much been holding the line, but we are beginning to see the economy turn back. So we felt that it was, again, a conservative approach to it. State aid was up about 17%. Assumption of state costs, 2.5%. Other special items, 1.5%. And you'll see the fund balance we talked about before. Last year we used $18 million in fund balance. We regenerated $23 million. Again, looking forward, we've already begun to look at the 19 numbers. We believe that we will regenerate the $19 million that you see in the budget this year. So, again, as a matter of tax relief, we felt that it was time to increase the use of that surplus. But we are very confident that we will regenerate that $19 million and hopefully more. So you'll see that the tax levy this year is going up 1.87%. That coming off a 0% increase last year, on average less than a 1% increase over the last 2 years. On the expenditure side, you'll see nothing really too crazy here. Some of the higher insurances, the 5.5%. If you look at that budget, that really is the increase to the workers' compensation and liability trust fund accounts. So that brings us up to where we believe historically we spend each year. So we are finally to the point where we are budgeting in our operating budget what we spend each year. Now again, workers' compensation, a little bit easier. It's pretty, doesn't fluctuate all that much. Liability trust, we don't sue anybody, we get sued. So you never know, which again is the importance of having the trust fund. But looking back historically, what we've spent out of that account, we believe that we're finally at that. So the big increase in that, the reason you see that 5.5% insurance is a little bit of it is the medical, but the majority of it is getting us to that number where I feel comfortable that going forward, that's where we need to be. Roads and bridges, again, it looks like a big number in dollars. It's not all that big when you're talking about a $400+ million budget. But one of the things in our road department, the county collects money from road fines in each of the municipalities. In years past, we have always relied on those fines to offset the cost of salary and wage to the road department. In some years, we were drawing down more than we were bringing in. So again, not something you want to do on a long-term basis. So what we've tried to do is each year increase the line item for roads and bridges so that we rely less on that trust fund money. Just one more thing that makes this budget a good budget and planning for the future. So again, you see that 8.49% increase, but the reality is it's one of those things that we needed to do and we'll try to continue to do moving forward so that we rely less and less on the trust fund. Everything else was pretty, a slight increase in debt service this year. We'll see that level off again next year. And deferred charges and statutory expenditures, which was 4.7%, that's mostly the pensions numbers. And again, that's the bill we get from the state that we have to put in the budget and we have to pay for. Again, one of those things that's really out of our control. But so overall spending, net of grants in this budget was 2.5%. And finally, or not finally, just, this is something, one of the little things, but when Rich came in, we made a conscious effort to begin to look at our banking and how the banks were treating us. So we really found that some of the bigger banks were taking advantage, and we decided to go to more community-oriented banks, and we did. And you'll see here, it's pretty amazing, which is why I wanted to show it. But if you look at where we were over the last 6 or 7 years versus where we are today, you'll see that interest on investments has quadrupled. But you know, the $1.3 million last year versus 2015, which was 36. Not big. Okay. My savings account is interest. So again, finally, the news of the day is this introduced budget is at a 1.7% increase in the tax levy. And again, as I like to say, we came out of the worst recession in far better place than when we went in, which, again, I think is a testament to this board that, you know, we made some difficult decisions. We had to make tough decisions. You were willing to make the tough decision. But without that, we would not be here today. We would have been here last year giving you the good news that I think we're giving. I know Phil Lepore, again, was our budget chair, and I thank you for all of the courtesies that you have given us and the committee, which I believe this year was Real Doctor and Joe Department. So we thank you for that. These guys next to me make me look good. And really a big shout out to the department heads behind me who really come in, you know, they've understood what we're looking for. They come in with reasonable budgets, and they make our job a lot easier. So, you know, kudos to the staff here. They really, they're watching the money as close as I am. That's pretty good. Is there any questions? Are there any questions or comments or recommendations? We certainly will love to entertain them.
Madam Chair. Again, great job, Tony and team, department heads. This is outstanding presentation. You know, seeing what's happening in municipal government and even being involved in school government to see how our budget is presented, which is very user-friendly and easy to decipher, talking about what our actual goals are for the year, I think is extremely important, and showing people exactly where their money is going is important to us. When we're going to get a little pushback because it is an increase in taxes, and nobody ever wants to see an increase in taxes. And they're going to say, but you have this large surplus. Why don't you use your surplus? And I think one item in the budget which shows that we are is that last year, again, we used $18 million of our surplus. This year, we're using $19 million of our surplus. So we did take $1 million out of our surplus to put towards the budget. And the costs that have increased are mainly costs that are outside of our control. It's not as if we're just going ahead spending crazy on new things. So the investments that we are making are for the betterment of the taxpayers. And I think that this presentation demonstrates that all of the investments and the increases in budget line items are going specifically for services or improvements and investments that are going to benefit the taxpayers directly. So thank you for that presentation.
You know, Phil, and you bring out a good point that seems to always get lost on people is, you know, you have the increased surplus, but we are using that surplus to offset taxes. You know, the juggling act is, you know, how much is enough, how much is too much, and that's the juggling act. But that's why we made that conscious effort this year to increase that surplus. But, you know, again, if we were in this position when, you know, maybe there were 2 or 3 freeholders here in 2007, which was, you know, an ugly time, financially, economically, we had to make tough decisions. Some of those decisions could have been different decisions had prior administration's plan for the future. And again, maybe it'll sound political, but when the administration in Passaic County changed, this new administration, when the Democrats took control of Passaic County, the infrastructure in this county was awful. Bridges weren't getting repaired, roads weren't getting paved, buildings were crumbling. I mean, we still own 317 Pennsylvania Avenue, which was supposed to be closed when this building was open. 20 years later, here we are, I still have that building. Hopefully in the next year, we consolidate all of our roads department, we'll be able to close that. So when you think about that, when you talk about the Utilities Authority, and again, going back to that 1998, where the county had the worst bond rating of any county in the state of New Jersey, when you go back to that, and again, if you look at the budget, there's $4 million line item in that budget that we'll be paying until 2038. And that's really what the board likes to say, not even a pencil to show for it. Zero. You know, the taxpayers of this county are paying $4 million a year for nothing. Zero. So, you know, that's why I always think it's so important to understand, you know, where we were and where we are. Because to the average person, 20 years sounds like, well, you shouldn't have taken that long to fix it. But when you think of the large problems, and then, you know, in the midst of it all, go through the worst economic time of our life, it's pretty amazing. And, you know, and I know you're all proud of it, and you know, and I'm proud of it as well, because I think we're doing the right thing for the taxpayers in this county. We're putting them in a position that we're not going to see those spikes anymore.
Is there one thing, you know, because everything on the news lately is about the crumbling of America. So when you bring up infrastructure, you caused us to be way ahead of the curve in this county, because you go to some other counties, the bridges are almost all deficient, scary to drive over some, and we have some projects left. But in comparison to other counties, we're far ahead. So that took a lot of planning in all your
We
points.
got bridges that need to be fixed, but they're under design.
Right.
And again, it doesn't happen with the wave of a magic wand, right? So it's, you know, trying to get funding through the NJTPA. You know, it takes time, but we are in that position. When, you know, back in 2006, I remember we started sending out letters to mayors as to, you know, which roads they wanted to see the county pave. And, you know, we used to get, you know, a clip like this with 1 million requests. There was a year where Wayne struggled to give us a road to repave because we had caught up with our repaving. Now, you know, winter like this takes a lot of tolls on roads, so, you know, but, you know, it's a far cry. You know, it's a far cry from, you know, where we were to where we are today. And again, for those of us that have been around long enough to know, it's pretty amazing. It really is. It's an amazing story to tell. Yeah, would we love to see 0% tax increases every year? Yeah, we would, but I think if you're not doing it the right way, and I constantly look at other counties and I look at their budgets, and there's, I won't mention any names, but there's a AAA county out there who hasn't raised taxes in 6 years. But if you look at their surplus numbers, all they keep doing is drawing down on their surplus. So, you know,
And they have a horrible record on infrastructure.
well, so, you know, to me, we're fooling ourselves and you're setting the public up for a big fall, because eventually you're going to pay the piper, right? So rather take small bites of an apple than try to shove a whole apple down somebody's throat. And again, I don't think there's anybody up there, myself or anybody here, that wants to raise taxes, but listen, it's the reality. Nothing costs what it cost the year before. Our personal lives are more. You know, salaries go up, the cost of operating government goes up. But we're doing it in such a way where we really are controlling our financial destiny. And that's something that we have not had. So, again, kudos to all of you for getting us lost position. And you all.
Now, Director, through you, I just want to, Anthony hit on the point, talking about sending out questionnaires to all the municipalities and asking them, what roads or what needs to be done, or what needs to be paved. And the request sheet has been declining through the years, thanks through the oversight of our engineering department and the way we budget. What I do want to say is that unlike what came from Washington the other day, where they identified the fact that the infrastructure in this country is crumbling and needs to be addressed, we're not telling the municipalities, well, we'll pave your roads, but we'll only give you 10% of the money, and if you want the road paved, you kick in the other 90. That's not the way you should operate. That doesn't even fall under the realm of what do you call it, tricks and whatnot. The fact of the matter is it's not being honest with your constituents. We can tell them, we'll pay something, we'll fix something, but then we'll send you the bill. And I'm proud of the fact that this county is being run by an administration and assisted by all the departments and the employees who are very conscious about their responsibilities to the taxpayer. And we wouldn't be in this position today had it not been for the joint effort of everyone involved. We three rowers, we're merely the rudder of the ship, we steer it, but the engine that drives the ship is the administration and the employees and the department heads. So I congratulate each and every one of you. I do it every year. We wouldn't be able to talk about all the good things that's happening in Passaic County if it wasn't through your efforts. And I know this group of the board is deeply appreciative of everyone's contribution to that effort. Thank you, Fred.
If I could, is this the time we ask for a raise?
This is it. There's no money in the budget.
Madam Director, if I could piggyback off what Fred Lepore said, the budget that the Trump administration introduced in Washington this week is already in the trash. People already know that it's a gimmick, that it actually holds no relevance to what the actual budget situation is there, and if it was implemented, would add about, I believe, $7 trillion to our deficit. As Mr. Genova said, we can't run a deficit. People don't understand that the metrics by which the federal government runs itself is not, Passaic County couldn't possibly run itself that way, even if we wanted to. So what's come out of Washington has been bad for us, not just for short term, for long term. In Trenton, we had a governor who said that he would not raise the gas tax because it was politically popular. He killed the tunnel. He killed the ARC tunnel project that would have really ensured our infrastructure going to New York City. And lo and behold, he had to raise the gas tax, but much later, and it costs more, and we're far behind where our infrastructure should be. So again, you kick the can down the road, you pay the price. We've seen what happens with the pension, where we promised a 2% cap would solve all the problems. Pension payments haven't been made. We're still in the same hole we are with the state pension. So these gimmicks, it'd be very easy. There's a lot more numbers that are in this document, but there's plenty more in this document. There's plenty more. You can hide all types of things. You can play all types of gimmicks, and you can make things look as rosy as you want to. But I give this county credit, and I give you credit for being honest and forthright. And I think that's a message we take to the residents of Passaic County. I don't think I'm afraid to go out there, even as an election year, to talk about why the budget is the way it is and the decisions that have been made. So I'm very proud of that. And I also want to just point out, like I try to do the result of that. The results are in Passaic County, for 2 years in a row, the largest increase in tourism of any county in New Jersey, 2 years in a row. Our household median income was the second highest increase. That's from the Census Bureau, not from our numbers. None of these are our numbers. Second highest county, we're the second highest household median income increase of any county in New Jersey. And just a few weeks ago, PCTI was rated in the 90th percentile of all schools in New Jersey by the state of New Jersey, not just of high schools, but elementary schools, middle schools. It's in the top 10% of all public schools in New Jersey, and that's a direct result of the investments that this county has made. So I think, and the parks, I think anybody who's lived here for a long time can say the parks are in the best condition they've ever been in. So I think the results are there, I think the numbers are there, and I congratulate you for being concrete as opposed to.
And none of what you just said happens by accident.
No.
It really doesn't happen by accident. When people want to invest in a place, some of the things they look at are infrastructure, right? They look at stability, So, you know, when you talk about meeting, when you talk about tourism, none of that's happening by accident, right? Now, we're partners with our 16 municipalities, and, you know, we all kind of move together. But it's an exciting time in the city, it really is. And, you know, just going back to what you said about, you know, revenues, you know, counties and municipalities, right, we can't anticipate more than we collected in 1 year. And in fact, what I said to you and what this budget does is we underestimate what we believe we're going to collect, right? Because better to have too much than not enough. The state is just the opposite, right? The state can pick a number out of the hat. We think we're gonna collect, you know, $1 billion more in sales tax this year. For no other reason than someone says, I think that, you know, we're going to do that. And what typically happens, and we'll begin to see it now as Governor Murphy has inherited, you know, what's going on here in the state, and you'll see it now. You'll see in the budget address how we've fallen short in revenues. I haven't seen anything yet, but I can guarantee you that that'll be part of that budget speech, how, you know, they anticipated so much in whatever, pick a revenue, it won't even matter, right? And that's why, when you talk about pensions not being fully funded, why didn't they fully fund it? Because they play a shell game. It's you know, it's streetcar market, not being honest.
And I apologize for taking more time, but I do want to say, you know, the housing market in New Jersey has been stagnant for so long, and it was finally starting to pick up, and you're seeing the values of homes starting to increase, and unfortunately, this tax bill that they passed in Washington is going to hurt the values of homes, and that hurts our municipalities, and that hurts this county, and that hurts our bottom line, and that's something which we obviously disagree with strongly, but have to pay the price for, and we can't hide that.
Second everything that my fellow members of the Budget Committee say, but also just want to point out something at sort of the level of policy and the idea of so much of what we're doing here being a model. You know, one of the things we talk about a lot in New Jersey is how much government we have. 655 municipalities, 565 municipalities, 600 plus school boards, and so forth. But some of the ways in which we have most creatively saved money and created efficiencies is when we work together, either with other levels of government, as we are with the park on health, or the other examples you gave, working with other counties, whether it's Essex County with the Juvenile Detention Center, or Sussex County with Meals on Wheels, or what have you, or finding ways to bring federal and state funding into the county for projects that are of shared interest. I think one of the things we've seen over the last 6 or 8 years since the legislature made it possible for municipalities to consolidate is that politically, most of the time, that's not going to happen. But county government is a place where we can create a lot of those same efficiencies in a very positive way, and also where the 16 municipalities can come together and have, for an example, an exceptional technical high school, an exceptional community college, because of the scale that we operate at. So I looked at our budget and the presentation, and like we said, rich history, bright future.
And to that point, you know, in my 14 years, I've seen the level of trust change so much when I deal with mayors and administrators from, you know, other municipalities. And again, not because they're now seeing that, you know, we're doing the right things, we have our house in order. So it certainly gives them a better comfort level when they want to sit down and talk about shared services. And we're talking to a couple of other towns right now about some health services. Going to be meeting with Bergen County and a couple of other possible shared services in the next couple of weeks. So, you know, again, as I say, nothing happens by accident, right? Nobody wants to partner with somebody that, you know, doesn't have their house in order. So I think all of these, you know, all of the good news just lead to more.
Just one thing, because I want to point out this to be clear. I really appreciate everything the department heads do. This is my 13th budget for Passaic County. Steve, you've been here. Steve Wilcott's been here for more than 13. Well, you and Rich Cahill are the finance guys who really work to put a lot of these numbers together with Tony, with Matt. You always do a fantastic job, and we're in the shape that we're in. I'm appreciative of the fact every day that you came to work with us, Rich. And Steve, you're just fun to hang out with, and you're brilliant. You're a brilliant auditor.
Steve is Steve, and we all say wonderful things, but I will tell you, having a finance director with stability and who knows his job and understands his job has been the most refreshing thing for me. It was a revolving door for, I guess 9 or 10 of my 14 years here. Rich has really brought stability. He's a professional, and it has made my job a lot easier. I think I drive him crazy, but he's made my job. No. I already stopped taking my phone calls. I'm not sure how to take that, but honestly, I have to say, it's a huge part of our success, is having somebody that, knows the budget, knows his business. And Steve, has taught me everything I know about budgeting, which not so much. But he is a wealth of knowledge, and it's great to have him. And we got him back. Lawyers, no offense to any lawyers.
Easy.
Lawyers typically are not always that great with numbers.
Except on the
But thank you all very much.
Thank
Well, thank you.
Well, you gotta take a cheap shot.
That's a cheap shot.
You guys did a great job. Thank you so much.
All right, that's all I have, Director. Enough, right? Tired of hearing me talk?
No, not especially on the budget. It's something to read for another day. We're going to move on to the review of the agenda. N1 to N2 and O1 to O53. Do you have any starters?
Yes, Madam Director, through you to the board. This is O54. Excuse me, it's a resolution authorizing the advertisement for the development and execution of a communications and marketing plan for Perkins Healthcare Center. Needs 5 votes to be added to the agenda. And then, Madam Director, should you entertain that, we're going to need, this will be the first in a long time, we're going to need to go to closed session. Hopefully briefly. Yeah, that's right. I was going to do it under new business, but no, please. Resolution 2018-02, which is a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements at the Passaic County Community College and by the County of Passaic, New Jersey, appropriating $1.7 plus $1 million will have to be, you have the amended resolution, which is what you'll be voting on. Yes. Okay. Need a motion.
James and Duffy.
What's that? You come back and adjourn, yes.
Freeholders, Actor.
Yes.
Bartlett. Yes. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Yes. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes.
Best. Duffy. Yes. Lepore. Yes. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. I have a motion to adjourn. Second. James and Bartlett.
Freeholders, Actor. Yes. Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Announcement of the open public meeting law.
Ladies and gentlemen, the notice requirement of the Open Public Meetings Law has been satisfied specifying the time, date, and location, including the annual notice adopted at the reorganization meeting filed with the county clerk, posted in the administration building, and mailed to 2 newspapers in accordance with the provisions of the law. Freeholders, Actor.
Yes.
Bartlett. Best. Here. Duffy. Here. Lepore. Here. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Here.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to take our moment of silence to remember all the men and women who died while serving in the armed forces of the United States. But most especially, I want to make a point of saying this. We lost a member of our family here in the county, Judy Henry. She was a medic up at Camp Hope, an emergency medical technician, and she was part of the heart and soul of a Camp Hope, and it was a deep loss for us. So I want to remember her in our moment of silence.
O God, who provides for thy people by thy power and rules over them in love, be gracious enough to bless thy servants, our freeholders in this county of Passaic, that thy people may dwell in peace and safety through our Lord. Amen.
To approve the minutes of January 23rd.
So moved.
second.
Freeholders, Actor. Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Have a motion to approve the proclamations.
So moved.
Yes, and
Freeholders, Actor. Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy. Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
yes. Can I have a motion to suspend the regular order of business? James and Actor. Bartlett, I'm sorry.
Freeholders, Actor.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Could I have a motion to adopt on first reading the 2018 CAP resolution to exceed index rate NJSA 40A4515, all as noted in the resolution?
Second.
James and Lepore.
Freeholders, Actor. Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Could I have a motion for resolution introducing the Passaic County budget for fiscal year 2018 and adopting same on first reading in accordance with the requirement of the local budget law as noted in the resolution?
Move it.
Before and after.
Freeholders, Actor.
Yes.
Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore.
Yes.
Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Could I have a motion to resume the regular order of business? Bartlett and Actor.
Freeholders, Actor. Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Freeholder reports?
Progress.
Progress?
Progress.
Communications? None? Have a motion to open the oral portion of the public portion of the meeting?
Move it.
Best and
Freeholders, Actor.
Yes.
Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
yes. Anyone wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium. Please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Excuse me. Hi, Angela Hubbard, 216 Washington Ave, Clifton, New Jersey. I'm here tonight to discuss just a couple of things. I'd like to let you know that myself and some of the other people in the RCP Coalition are currently looking into putting together some sort of small exhibit, possibly for local municipal libraries, on the history of our local parks, namely Bradford King Park and Barron Mountain Reservation. Given the fact that the county is going to be undertaking a lot of renovation and restoration of these parks, we think this would be a great time to showcase the history of those wonderful parks for local population, especially local students. Secondly, I just want to comment regarding the dredging project again. As we look ahead to the future development phases of Gallery and King Park, and we look at the damage done to the trees that we brought to previously, the trees that were supposed to be protected, which have been told by professionals will be fine. It does give us cause for concern about future projects and phases coming down the line. And because of this, we'd like to respectfully request that that particular contractor not be hired again for future work on these parks. On that note, we know that there had to be some disturbance in the environmental impact of the dredging, but better communication would have helped alleviate a lot of feelings and anxieties about this kind of project. Whether the trees are marked or they're coming down, or good news they're protected, or no, the other ones around came down, and now, there was trouble with the other ones. As far as protecting them. So moving forward, it would be better if stakeholders could be given more information ahead of time regarding the management of the trees and environments of our park. And we know that native plant restoration of the affected areas is supposed to take place. For example, Wizard Park. Wizard Park looks great. So now we don't have confidence in this contractor. We don't know if it's subcontracted out or if it's the same one doing this. So I'm not sure who you have handling this, but I just wanted to give you this. This is a native restored native plants. This person comes highly recommended, Dr. Barton. And it would be great to have someone with a PhD on it or looking into it. I haven't had the pleasure of talking to him or to this organization, but I just wanted to pass this information on to you and give you the exposures and all the other things going on. So I just have this for you, and that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to be heard?
Hi, John Bekmansky, 25 Comfort Place, Clifton. I'm a member of the Dutchville Residents Association. We belong to civic organization in Clifton, and we donate to organizations such as St. Peter's Haven and Boys and Girls Club. We also award scholarships to the high school students that are in the Dutchville area. We usually give them $750, as many as 1, 2, or maybe 3. We hold our flea market in Weissenberg Park to raise money for our organization. And it came to our attention that you recently raised the permit fee to hold our flea market in the park. And it is becoming kind of a burden because we have a very little budget. We barely have maybe $2,000 in our budget in order to award scholarships and things. And we're asking that if we can either have it waived or reduced, to sustain the organization, because this is our sole source of income. And that's what I need to say. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else coming forth, move to close the public portion.
I just like to mention that if you'd like to make a request,
Sure. No.
Yes.
if you'd like to make that request, could you put it in writing and send it to us?
Yes. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Made motion to close the public portion.
Motion's been made. Duffy and who else?
Freeholders, Actor. Bartlett. Best. Yes. Duffy.
Yes.
McClure. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Two resolutions and 1 and 2. Have a motion?
Maybe together.
We had We had an amendment.
So I'll move one.
So we're going to vote just on N1. We need James. I thought we didn't take it.
Well, if someone has reason that we can
We can vote.
Roll the dice.
Okay. James and who else?
Second. After, this is for N1 and N2.
Yes.
Freeholders, Apter. Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore.
Yes.
Deputy Director James.
Yes.
Director Lazare.
Yes. Motion to make the amendment and add the late starters.
Move it, one late start, 054.
Oh, that's right.
Second.
James and Duffy.
Freeholders, Apter. Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James.
Yes.
Director Lazare.
Yes. Do I have a motion to accept the resolutions on the consent agenda and 01 through 054?
So moved. Second.
Best and Lepore.
Freeholders, Apter. Bartlett.
Recused on 45, yes on the rest.
Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore.
Yes.
Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Have a motion, we're in receipt of filed debt statement from CFO.
Yes.
We have a motion to accept bond ordinance 2018-01.
I'd like, Madam Director, I'd like to read into the record the title, please. Bond ordinance of the County of Passaic, New Jersey, providing for improvements at the Passaic County Community College in and by the county appropriating $3,200,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3,200,000 bonds or notes of the county to finance the cost thereof. $1,600,000 of which are entitled for benefits of debt service aid from the state of New Jersey pursuant to the County College Bond Act, Public Law 1971, Chapter 12.
Ford and James.
Freeholders, Apter. Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Do you want to read the next one before I ask for a vote?
We could do a motion to add the
Can I have a motion to amend bond ordinance James? Bartlett.
Freeholders, Apter. Bartlett. Best. Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Can I have a motion to,
Okay, and then I'll read into the bond ordinance 2018-02. Bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements at the Passaic County Community College in and by the County of Passaic, New Jersey, appropriating $1,714,790, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,714,790 bonds or notes of the county to finance the cost thereof.
Move it.
Best and James?
That was made by Lepore and James. Freeholders, Apter. Bartlett. Best.
Yes.
Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Bond ordinance 2018-03.
Bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements of the County of Passaic, New Jersey, appropriating the aggregate amount of $10 million, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $9,500,000 bonds or notes of the county to finance the part of the cost thereof.
Move it.
Before. And James.
Freeholders, Apter. Bartlett. Best. Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. motion to accept personnel.
Move personnel.
For James.
Freeholders, Actor, Bartley. Best.
Yes.
Duffy. Lepore.
Yes.
Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes.
Move the bills.
For James.
Freeholders, Actor, Bartley. Best.
Yes.
Duffy. Lepore.
Yes.
Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. Certification payroll.
Move it.
For James.
Freeholders, Actor, Bartley. Best.
Yes.
Duffy. Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes. May receive the financial.
Received and filed.
Make that motion.
Freeholders, Actor, Bartley. Best.
Yes.
Freeholder, Duffy.
Yes.
Lepore. Deputy Director James. Director Lazare.
Yes.
Just across the name.